Hey, what's up, my people? John Middlekauff, new YouTube channel. What I need you to do, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, share with your friends. Appreciate everyone that has. It's the podcast, 3 and Out. You can listen wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify. We got you covered. Also, thevolume.com. We got merch right here. FlexFit hat. Go to thevolume.com. Get yourself a 3 and Out hat. Okay, week 18. Right around the corner. We got some Saturday games, obviously a full slate Sunday. No Monday night because of the national championship playoffs start the following week. So what I did is I did a little pressure rankings, the most pressure coming into this weekend, because a lot of these games don't matter. A lot of teams resting quarterbacks and players in general. I mean, the Rams are playing nobody. The Chiefs resting Mahomes. So you get a lot of teams that it's pointless to even talk about the game right before the game, maybe after. I'll give some opinions on Carson Wentz and company, but there are several games that matter, and I just want to hit a little bit on the pressure rankings this weekend. So that's what we're gonna do. But before we dive into that, because I'm pretty excited. I mean, I got some interesting things I definitely want to hit on. Is I got friends. I got good friends. They just happen to be the official ticketing app of this podcast. Go to your smartphone, go to your iPad, go wherever you have your applications and download Gametime. They are the best ticketing app I've ever used. And when you download Gametime, do you want to go to one of these playoff games? Do you live in one of those markets? Are you a fan of these teams? Hell, do you want to go to Vegas if your team makes it to the Super Bowl? Do you want to go to any sporting event, college or pro? National championship. You live in Texas? You want to put a little cash on Washington like your boy here? Well, here's what you do. You sign up for a pair of tickets, any event, concerts, comedy shows, promo code John. Promo code John happens to be my name, John, save $20. How do you beat that? Saving you a little money, taking care of my people, go to a game, go to an event, go to a concert, have yourself some fun, do it on us, save some money. Gametime, promo code John. Obviously, there are decisions that have already been made, right? Some of these coaches, they're going to get fired on Monday. We've seen a bunch of coaches fired. You know, Dennis Allen, Todd Bowles, they're guys, Arthur Smith. For the most part, the South divisions, I don't give a shit. One game that's not on here, Houston, Indy, I just don't, it doesn't matter. I think both those teams won. They both have rookie quarterbacks and one guy's injured. It's not about this year. Right. Obviously, both those teams feel really good about their coaches. Washington, they could upset the Cowboys, which is not going to happen. He's still getting fired. You know, the Belichick thing, I think it feels obvious, but, you know, the way the Patriots operate in general, a little cloak and dagger. So obviously next week's going to be a lot reacting to the coaching situation. I heard Schefter say this, and he's so right. Let's face it, the coaching hiring cycle, when you factor in 7, 8, 9 teams, is as big a story as the games. It's as big a story as the draft. I mean, that's as big as it gets. In this sport, right, forever, when I was a kid, managers in baseball were stars. Now they don't matter. They make $750,000. Right? When I was a kid, basketball coaches were really, really famous. Now there are 3 guys that were famous. Most of the guys you couldn't point out of a lineup, beside some of the guys that used to play. In football, coaches matter. And it's a coaching sport. They make a ton of money. They make the most money. I mean, you're talking Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator from the Lions, is being discussed to make it $15 million. Obviously, all the college coaches that matter. Lincoln Riley's on a $120 million contract. The Michigan Wolverines have a $120 million contract on the table for Jim Harbaugh. It's I can make more in the NFL if I want. If I choose to stay here, it has nothing to do with money. So, I mean, it's just fascinating. Their impact is inarguable, the importance they have to your franchise. So that's going to be a huge talking point. There's just a lot in flux right now, and I'll be excited for what we've called Black Monday for a while. Though I don't expect the Patriot situation to be resolved Monday, but interested. Listen, I don't root for anyone to lose their job, but like I said, I feel sympathy for the guy making $80,000 who gets laid off and who's got 2 kids and a mortgage. I feel zero sympathy for guys making $7 to $15 million who get fired because they're not good at their job. I'm sorry, I just don't care. No one does. Maybe guys on their staff not making much money. I've been fired from the NFL. I was making $60,000. That sucked. No, I was young. fluid, figured it out. No big deal. Most of these guys will be okay. But let's dive into the pressure rankings this weekend, because I think there is one team head and shoulders above everybody else. They were a team coming into the preseason. A lot of people thought they could win the Super Bowl. They have easily one of the best players in the league at the most important position, and that's quarterback. Then the article that came out from Ty Dunn, whatever that was, within the last month, really made shockwaves, right? And the crazy part is, listen, I've known Sean McDermott since I worked in Philly. He was our defensive coordinator when I got hired. I like him. He's been really cool to me. I think he's a really impressive guy. And texting with other people that have worked with him, like, that article does not reflect the guy I know. Now, I've always said he can be a little tight. I mean, defensive guys tend to be. But, a guy making that comment about 9/11 seems a little out of left field. I mean, he made it. It's not like he denied it. But it wasn't from this year. It's from like 4 years ago. But regardless, like, let's face it, they've rallied around each other, and they've rattled off a bunch of wins, and they've put themselves in a position to not just win 11 games, but to be the 2 seed. But here's the reality, depending on how things shake out, if they were to lose this game, they would not make the playoffs. So there is a ton on the line for a team that coming into the season was like AFC Championship at minimum, let alone like a legit Super Bowl contender. So to not make the playoffs, I would say it'd be the biggest disaster in the NFL. When you have a quarterback who's playing, he didn't play that well last week, but just, you know what I mean. And here's the other thing. They played this Miami team. Now, they were different. They were a lot healthier. They beat the living piss out of them. They beat them by 28 points, and the game was not even that close. And this Miami team, they've impressed me. They've been much better than I thought they would be. I didn't think they would be this good. What McDaniel's done with Tua, obviously how talented their offensive skill guys are. Mostert's over 20 touchdowns. Like, that's insane. Like, they deserve all the flowers. But it felt like a wild card team to me most of the season, more than a division champ. And I expect them to lose this week. But, like, let's face it. You lose this game if you're the Bills, and, some of these other teams win, and you're out of the playoffs, everything would be on the table. And it would be an utter disaster. Like I talk about all the time, like anything less than a Super Bowl bid for the Niners or the Ravens is a disaster. I mean, that's like a high-level disaster. Like the Chiefs, they've had a very disappointing season. They're still going to host a playoff game. They're probably going to win a playoff game. They're going to be in the second round. Like, this is not that bad, right? Miss the playoffs? Like the Steelers, more than likely are going to miss the playoffs. Like, that's awful. But we've known that now for a couple weeks. They put themselves in that position because of their quarterback limbo with Mitch Trubisky. The Bills have no excuse. And they flexed their muscles several weeks ago against the Cowboys. That Bills team can compete to win the Super Bowl. The Bills team we've seen the last couple weeks, been a little weird. Give them a little bit of a pass against the Charger game. Last week against New England, like, what the hell was that? Zappy threw like 10 touchdowns, and it was a close game. Or 10 interceptions. Like, legitimately. I think he had 3 or 4 interceptions at half. How are they in this game? So to me, a lot of pressure on this game. The Bills are favored. Everyone thinks they're going to win, including myself, but you got to do it. I mean, that's the point of the games. And I think there's a ton of pressure on Josh Allen. There's obviously a ton of pressure on the head coach. This game it's fascinating to me. It's Sunday Night Football. Millions of people are going to be watching. Very, very excited. It doesn't get any better than this, right? It really doesn't. And it'd be impressive given where they sat even a month ago that looked like the Bills were headed toward 8-9 wins. Now, all of a sudden, you win this. You're 11 wins. You win the division for whatever the fourth straight year. You're the 2 seed. It looks like you have a pretty clear path to get back, to an AFC championship game. You get the Chiefs potentially at home. Pretty big deal. So Bills to me are easily number 1. Number 2, and it's not that far away from the Bills, in the simple fact that Matt LaFleur, back-to-back years, win and get in at home. Win and get in at home. Win and get in games are obviously hard. It's football. This isn't a series. You don't get like, hey, we just got to win 2 of our 4-game series. That's not the way it works. You get 1 game, 60 minutes. Shit can go weird. Your quarterback can be off. Things can happen. Last year, you lost to the Lions. Now, I would say that loss has aged well because the Lions are good and they had a ton of momentum. Now, they came into Lambeau. I would say the thing that didn't age well is like Jared Goff doesn't play well outside. So you lose in that situation with Rodgers even having a down year. Like, that was pretty bad. I would say this situation, a little similar, playing a divisional foe with a lot of momentum. Defense is playing really well. But I just talked to a buddy who is a big Packer fan at TPC, where I play golf. I had to go there to re-up my little membership here so I could keep playing golf. And we were like, the problem with Jordan Love is that, like, you never quite know what you're going to get. When he's on, you're like, did they just find their next Rodgers Favre? Like the version we've seen against Minnesota, he's had several games in primetime situations. The guy we saw against the Lions on Thanksgiving, it's like, holy shit. I mean, that's a $40-45 million quarterback. And then he's had games. Now, a lot of them were early, but they've been sprinkled throughout the year where you're just like, a little off. And listen, in theory, you should have the better quarterback. You obviously have the better coach. He's won a bunch of games, been in the playoffs several times. It's in Lambeau Field. Can't lose this game. You just can't lose this game. And your offense has been humming. Listen, you wouldn't be in this position if your defense wasn't so shitty. And to me, that's on LaFleur because Joe Barry's his buddy. So anytime you hire your buddy, most guys are friends, right? Belichick likes all the guys that have worked for him. Andy Reid's buddies with all these guys. At least his buddies tend to be good. If you're going to hire a buddy, he's going to be shitty. We're going to have a problem. And I understand, the Packers easily have one of the biggest fan bases in the league. And they've been pissed off all year long. And I think it's been justifiably so. Because you can't have a guy who we've invested so much on the defensive side of the ball. And I do think as it's aged, that move by Jair Alexander, I don't think it happens if you have a legitimate defensive coordinator. Like, how do you not have like Vic Fangio or Brian Flores or Jim Schwartz or just someone real? Like that shit just wouldn't be tolerated. Like, listen, offensive coaches can be a little liberal, a little more open-minded in terms of like less structure, cool with kind of pushing the envelope. Defensive coaches do not mess around. Think about the defensive coaches over the history of the league. It's like Parcells, LeBeau, Belichick. They're just kind of angrier curmudgeons. It's not tolerated. And I think that was, if they were to lose this game, this season, in a weird way, was somewhat of a success because of the progress Jordan Love made, but also would be looked at like, Matt, how did you tolerate this guy coaching your defense? From a schematic standpoint, it was a disaster. And then the situation with Jair Alexander has to be a reflection of the guy, you put in task of that unit, because you're either coaching or allowing it to happen. And even if they make it, I still think they'll make a defensive coordinator change when the dust settles, whenever their season ends. But you can't lose this game at home to the Bears. And speaking of the Bears, as of sitting here right now, I think Justin Fields is not going to be on the Chicago Bears. I think it's a very sexy thing online. Like, look what he's done. Look at the Bears. You mean their defense has been really good? I look today. He has thrown 5 touchdowns since the middle of November. Total. 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns. Obviously, he has several running, and no one's ever disputed, including me, who thought he should be the number 2 pick in the draft behind Trevor Lawrence. And when they took Zach Wilson, I thought the 49ers should have taken him instead of Trey Lance or Mac Jones. For some reason, Kyle Shanahan loved those 2 guys. Honestly, he liked Mac Jones more. He just got talked out of it. Obviously, a disaster. Thank God he didn't take Mac Jones either, but that's a story for another day. This guy is a great athlete. Can he pass the ball? And to me, like, quarterback, when you play another quarterback, like Peyton versus Brady, they're never playing each other because they're never on the field at the same time. But I've been to a lot of NFL games, and the one thing is, when you are there live and you see your guy against their guy on and off, kind of yin and yang, you kind of get a good feel. Like, is our guy as good as their guy? Because Jordan Love's going nowhere, right? Jordan Love, they got something there. Like, everyone keeps saying they got something here with Fields. Do they really? Do they really? I wanted to believe that a long time ago. I don't, because I don't think he throws the ball well enough. And Michael Lombardi, I've heard him say this on his podcast. I think and he brings up a good point. Like, the conversation should be about, like, are you willing to extend this guy? And this is the NFL. You don't extend a guy like 3 years, $30 million. But even if you could, is this guy good enough to win you playoff games? I don't know if Caleb Williams is. No clue. I know a lot of people slide into my DMs and talk. A lot of people think he's going to be a bust, think he's overrated. Totally get it, because most quarterbacks typically are. The hype cycle, the way we talk about it, it's just the nature of kind of the world that is college prospects to the draft. But I would rather have Caleb Williams than Justin Fields. especially to reset my clock. The other thing is like, am I really, think about all the draft capital you could have. Well, yeah, you could definitely improve your team, trade back a little bit, use your other first round pick. But if this guy can't throw the ball well enough, you're not beating all the good teams in the NFC, who scoring points is no issue for them. And I've said it from the jump. The conversation about Justin Fields to me is more about, this is one of the biggest off seasons in the history of the franchise. They have the number 1 overall pick in the draft with an excellent quarterback draft. And their quarterback, while improved, does he just scream franchise guy for you? Like, is Justin Fields going to be a starter for 10 years? You're going to rattle off playoff victories? I can't say that. Neither can they. So you get this opportunity. You're going to keep everyone in the organization and let them make the decisions? That feels pretty bold to me. And it kind of feels like that's where it's trending. And listen, Eberflus clearly a pretty good defensive coach. But I don't know. I have no faith in the Bears making the right decision. Just look historically at their organization, old school organization, kind of a mom and pop shop, despite being in this massive market and having this, cash cow of a team if they wanted to put it for sale. But, and just because you get some rich owner doesn't guarantee you anything. Look at David Tepper. He's a fucking disaster. But I got to move on from Justin Fields. Now, you go into Lambeau, he throws like 4 touchdowns. You're like, well, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not acting like I'm the know-it-all, be-it-all here on this one. But know-it-all, be-it-all? Is that even know-all, be-all? I just think that Justin Fields, he got to go. And I luckily for them, you'd want a good game, trade him for like a second and third round pick. Caleb Williams, draft another skill guy, use those second round, third, develop more depth, sign Jalen Johnson. Your defense is good. I think we'd be thinking the Bears could make some noise next year. Throw down on big matchups with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on the NFL and score $150 instantly in bonus bets. Download DraftKings Sportsbook now with code JOHN. New customers can bet $5 on the NFL action to score $150 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code JOHN. John, the crown is yours. It was hard. I did not include the NFC South on this list. I just do not care. To me, Tampa, the Saints, you guys are irrelevant. I can't get you out of the playoffs quickly enough. Atlanta, give me a break. I'm not even entertaining talking about them. Just go away, fire a coach, start over, and tell me when you have a real quarterback and a real coach. And listen, I think Arthur Smith's a real coach as an offensive coordinator. Clearly, his dad's one of the all-time great CEOs. Listen, sometimes you're not. And this notion that, you didn't get a fair shake? Fuck, how? You got a million opportunities. He had opportunities to sign different quarterbacks. He just always refused. He liked Desmond Ridder. Give me a break. But I do think the Jags, you get this guy who, and I don't think it's just the hype for people that talk about football. Everyone I knew that did the SEC, which includes Clemson, Florida State, that southern region, loved Trevor Lawrence. They not only thought he was the number 1 quarterback in the draft, which was consensus, they thought he was an elite prospect. And let's face it, he just hasn't been. He just hasn't been as good as living up to the hype. And it happens sometimes. The hype train on certain guys, like Zion. It's not like Zion doesn't have the talent that's obvious. It's he's fat. Can't stop eating. We all struggle with that. Problem is, he's a professional athlete. And it's well known. He just can't stop eating, which he gets too heavy and then he gets injured. But you watch Zion, if he's just in semi shape, he can do 30 and 20 with his eyes closed, right? So he was an all-time prospect, and clearly the off the field or off the court is what slows him down, not the talent, right? Trevor Lawrence, all this hype off the field clearly ain't an issue. It's not like he's screwing around. Very mature guy, right? I don't think he's got issues with his diet. It's just you watch him play, you go, am I missing something? Where's this top 5 quarterback thing? Because hell, coming into this season, I was I expect him to be a top 5 quarterback, them to win 11 and 12 games. I thought they'd be one of the best offenses in the league. And, we don't even know if he's going to play. And I include Doug on this. They got to win this game. I mean, they're playing the Titans, who are a train wreck. Vrabel's losing it on reporters. A lot of reports think that, he wants out, which is a little weird. Nashville's just an incredible place. But listen, if you don't have trust in your owner, if you don't feel comfortable with the GM and the structural setup, Like he wouldn't be the first. There's been a long line of them. Bill Parcells, a lot of Holmgren, a lot of guys about Gruden. Listen, coaches get big egos, money. They don't like answering to people. No different than, players sometimes. So the Jags have to win this game. They win this game, they win the division. Now, I think they'll be one and done. I like Cleveland in that matchup. Just like last year, I like the Chargers in that matchup. The problem was, as I underestimated Brandon Staley and a defensive unit that couldn't cover me or you. And that clearly took shape in the second half when they blew coverage after coverage in a game that you can't blow. I was like, you're going to cruise to a victory. Nice little playoff victory for Brandon Staley. All of a sudden they lose. I don't know if they lose quite like that. I just would imagine the Browns would overwhelm Trevor Lawrence with the way he has played this year. But there's tangible, like you lose this game, like it'd be hard to look at them the same. Doug included, but specifically Trevor Lawrence. Now, listen, I like Doug. If your quarterback, and part of the reason that there was so much pressure when you took this job with Doug Peterson was like, well, you get this generational player. And sometimes I think we throw out that word a little much. Now, I understand the scouting community believe that. Sometimes they're all just wrong. Right? And it's rare that it happens at quarterback. And I think we're going to see the same thing with Caleb Williams in the sense the hype on Caleb Williams couldn't be any stronger. Like Trevor Lawrence, it's built up now for 24 months. So it's one thing when you just become the top player in a given year. Joe Burrow, I wouldn't say came out of nowhere because he was starting quarterback at LSU, but was not viewed as a top pick, viewed as a mid-rounder, comes back, great season, goes number one. Same thing with Baker Mayfield. Like it was like a slow build, and then you just watch him toward the end. You're like, this guy's a really good college player. Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams has been all the hype. Even since Trevor Lawrence got in the NFL, the hype. And you're sitting on your couch, like, I don't know, man. Am I missing something here? And I have no dog in the fight. Like, I'm technically rooting. I'd like to see another good quarterback. But he just hasn't even come close to living up to the hype. So they lose this weekend. Holy shit, you never know. Shad Khan maybe fires people. And last but not least, like I didn't include Tomlin on this list because they don't even control their own destiny, right? I like I said earlier, I did not include Indy or Houston on this list. Neither team, if either team misses the playoffs, not a soul picked the Colts or the Texans to even be in the mix. So I don't think there's any pressure on those teams. I think Jim Harbaugh has tangible pressure to win a national championship because by all accounts, and Schefter's pretty tight end, it surely feels like he's leaving. Like it feels like it would be an upset if Jim Harbaugh comes out. The hiring cycle this year is different. They have set new rules and parameters. So I don't think a lot of guys are going to get hired quickly. You're not even able to interview people that are coaching in the playoffs till like the 21st of this month. So you're not going to get hires as quickly as normal. Even some of these guys like Antonio Pierce. If Mark Davis wants to hire Antonio Pierce, he has to go through this whole dog and pony show of interviewing people, and it's going to take a while. It just is, especially because some of these organizations also have GM jobs open. That Jim Harbaugh has proven to be a winner. Can't be argued, right? Won in San Diego. Bruce Feldman once told me he thought Stanford's the most impressive college turnaround he's ever seen. One, it's a niche school. You have to get guys who academically qualify. And two, they were god-awful when he took the job. They were 1-11 with no future in sight. And within 3 years had Andrew Luck, and they were in a BCS game. So, and then the Niners, while they had talent on their roster, were a fucking joke. Pete Carroll and Matt Leinart both returned to school in 05 or 06, whatever year that was, because they wanted no part of the San Francisco 49ers. They were a laughingstock once Eddie DeBartolo got rid of the team. And obviously Michigan, probably his least impressive job, took a little longer, and because it should be easier there to win. Listen, I would have bet on the turnaround happening faster, but the turnaround happened. He now owns Ryan Day. He is a major reason Ryan Day's officially on the hot seat right now. And he just got, I would say, the biggest win of his coaching career against Nick Saban in the Final Four. I think it's bigger than any playoff win he's ever had. I would say the biggest NFL win he'd ever had was the conference championship. It was against Mike Smith and Atlanta. If he had beat Aaron Rodgers in that situation, and I know he beat Aaron Rodgers and McCarthy in the playoffs, but I think that against Saban is his biggest win. Even his mother, if you watch that video, was stunned. She's like, I can't believe we won. That's his mom. So if we're all stunned, because let's face it, we all were. I did not believe they were going to go the field with whatever, under 4 minutes left, go 75, 80 yards to score a touchdown. And then they were even in 4th and short early on the possession, but he got a win. I do think he needs to validate it, because even when he comes back to the NFL, it's like, can he win a Super Bowl? Because he's never won one. But I do think we'll look at him like a championship level guy. If he loses this game, the narrative around Jim Harbaugh hasn't really changed. Like, he's been in this situation before. Hell, the last 2 years in the playoffs, he's lost. We just assume he's going to lose the big games. It's why I'm very tempted. Listen, I got a 7-1 ticket on Washington. I might drive down to the DraftKings Sportsbook. I don't know why I just don't do it online, which I just kind of like going to the sportsbook, gets my juices flowing. I've taken Washington 4.5. I just view it as value. And I also just kind of betting against Harbaugh. I think he gets a little tight in this situation. And if it wasn't for me betting on Washington and just a team that I felt faith in, I would be rooting heavily for Jim Harbaugh, because I want to see this guy become a champion, because I know how much he loves football. I know how much it means to his family. It's a way of life. They are the ultimate football guys, football family. Jack coached forever. Obviously, Jim and John. It doesn't get any more football than the Harbaughs, right? They're as football gets. And I would be rooting for him, but I can't, because I'm betting against him. And I don't feel that bad betting against him. It's why I didn't, listen, I thought Michigan, almost parlayed Washington, Michigan. But I was like, do I trust Harbaugh against Saban? And I felt pretty good about not doing it the majority of the game, because I'm like, of course, Nick Saban with a shitty version of Alabama relative to the rest of the country is still pretty good. But for him, I mean, it was, even he admitted this wasn't a great team. He had him on the ropes. So, DeBoer, they have a much more explosive offense. But Jim wins this. It does just kind of end the conversation, which is fair now. Like, can this guy win when it really matters? Because we know he can win. If the Raiders hire him, the Chargers hire him, they're going to the playoffs. You know what the Raiders would do to go to the playoffs on a yearly basis? Even the Chargers. How often they made the playoffs the last decade? Like 2 times? It's not like they've lacked talent. So these teams would die to just consistently be, 10, 11 wins, wild card teams. They would pay $15, $18 million for 3 straight playoff appearances. And he'll get you that. He's proven that. Once you get there, though, can he win? I don't know. I don't feel great about it. So I think he has the least amount, because he's already resurrected the program. Not debatable. He's about to send 15, 16, 17 guys into the NFL off this team alone. And he's produced a ton of NFL guys since he's been there. We know he's really good. But there's a difference between really good and can you get it done in the biggest moment? Because no matter how much shit we talk about a certain coach, once you got a championship, it's like, listen, say whatever you want about me. If I'm Mike McCarthy, I got a ring. Sean McVay, John Harbaugh. Listen, Kyle Shanahan kind of has that right now. It's like, until he wins it, he's kind of got some Jim Harbaugh. I mean, they're different people. And he battled that forever when he was with the Eagles, and even early on in Kansas City. So winning that big game, I think legitimately would change his life. Not financially. He's super rich. He's going to make money no matter what. Not even on the field. They're going to keep winning wherever he goes. But winning that game, and find me a better opportunity than this. He's, I would say, a pretty big favorite. 4.5, who knows? By kickoff, he might be a 5-point favorite. You can't lose as a 5-point favorite. That would be pretty bad.